Super Mario Party! This is the fourth Mario Party series that I've reviewed. Over the years, it's gotten new additions and lost some things, but at the heart of it, the title is still the same as it always was. A fun game to play at a party. I will say this is the first game in the series that I actually finished. What I mean by that is, in each of the sections, you can get a gem if you complete everything in the section. And I did it! It got very tiring and a bit boring. I don't know if the other games had an overall goal like that, because I tended just to stay on a few of the boards that I liked and didn't wander off too much. In this game, there are enough side activities to make it worth playing, and in my case, finishing. Even if it got extremely tedious towards the end. I'm looking at you, river rafting game. If you've never played a Mario Party game before, you play on a board and you move from space to space, either collecting coins, doing mini-games, triggering a special event, or collecting a star. The whole goal is to get as many stars as possible in the amount of turns that you designate. There are 4 boards in total, and you can play 3 of the boards right away, but the 4th is locked away until you play all of the other boards. That really sucked, because the 4th board was by far the best. You could use strategy on that board. On most of the other boards, it came down to pure luck. You can try and come up with plans to get the stars, but a lot of times where the star ends up could either be great or extremely frustrating. What's great about the 4th one is that the star is always in the same place. Now, it doesn't help that the game cheats for the AI. I know this sounds like sour grapes from an unlucky roll, but it happened way too often that the star will move right next to one of my opponents. This happened a lot more in the team battles. I mean, the star moved a few feet from the other team. How is this fair? This is not an isolated incident. It's happened quite a few times where the computer would just give the AI items or advantages that were just unfair. The best way to get around the cheating AI is to not use them. This game is a party game, so you're going to want to get people to play this with you. I mean, there's nothing sadder than someone playing this game all alone. Hey boys, you want to play Mario Party with me? The other boards are okay. They each have a gimmick like pushing you backwards or having separate islands. But I do think the final board is the best. It's just like a loop that you go around and you can plan your moves accordingly, and I like that. Each of the characters have their own dice to bring in. Unlike standard dice, which has 1 through 6, there could be literally anything on the dice. So each character has their own advantages and disadvantages on their own dice roll if you use one of their dice. Later in the game, you can get allies to come with you, and they're going to have their own dice you could use. And those dice might actually be able to be useful because they might have specific numbers you might want to actually roll. The most annoying thing is that you can't see what their dice look like in the character select screen. You would think this would be an obvious thing to do. How are you supposed to have an informed decision if you don't know what their dice look like? Not all dice are equal. Some are really bad dice to use. Some of them are just slightly better than rolling a normal die. Also, some of the items that you can use are overpowered. There's a pipe item that almost takes you straight to the star. This sort of thing should not exist in the shop. There's also double the amount of stars that you get card. This is another example of the computer cheating and just giving them a rare item and somehow going from 0 stars to 4 in the last turn. This is bull. Speaking of bull, at the end of the game, the judges hand out 2 stars based on arbitrary and changing statistics. They might give it out to the person who has the most coins. Or how about the one who's traveled the least? If one of the teams was dominating through this whole thing, it's completely ridiculous to have them lose in the last second. Now, like I mentioned, there's a team board where you and another player battle 2 other people. You add up your dice rolls together, and you each get to go that amount. And there are more spaces to walk on. I didn't particularly like the team boards because not only were there less minigames to play, it was kind of boring at times because a lot of these boards were not suited for that kind of gameplay, even in its tweaked form. There are other modes like river rafting, and while this could be fun a couple times, just, taking different paths and seeing the ways they changed up the river, the minigames that you needed to do to keep adding time to your clock were not great, and they kind of dragged down the gameplay. And there was only a few of them, so you'd constantly repeat them. There's also a sound test mode, which was really just a rhythm-based games. The littlest Wiiviewer played this part because he loves rhythm games, and he saw this was happening and instantly took my controller. He said a couple of the modes seemed like they were taken from the Rhythm Heaven series, and he really disliked the baton thrusting game, as he said it was boring. But he really did like pulling out the sheet from the glasses, as he said it was fun to do. There's also a single player game where you have to play every minigame there is to offer. It was about as interesting as that sounds. They will let you move on if you get stuck, so you won't have to worry about losing a game too many times if you get frustrated easily. There's also other modes like baseball, where you hit a ball like you're in a pinball machine, or tanks where you have to shoot at each other. You can play this on 2 switches if you have it, but since I don't have that, I couldn't test that part. But playing it on the TV screen, these games were fun enough for a couple plays, but it was clear that this was not the main attraction, as they were not very deep in gameplay. There is an online mode to this, but unfortunately it's just playing a few of the mini games. And they weren't even the best games. It had you playing 5 games and seeing who had the most points from an arbitrary number system they have in place. Some of the games are worth 400 odd points and others 1,000. Would consistency kill them? I only found a couple people playing online. You can play with up to 3 other people, and if there isn't enough, they're just going to fill it up with computer players. There was actually a noticeable lag in these sections. I don't think it affected the gameplay, but it was annoying to see the slowdown, especially in an online system we're actually paying for now. There is collectibles that you could buy with the points that you get for playing. These come in the form of stickers that you can add to pictures, or you can unlock the music in the game to listen to as well. But for me, I didn't care about this at all. But if you like this type of stuff, there's plenty for you to unlock. Super Mario Party. This latest version of the Mario Party feels easier to play. The minigames are quick to load, and being able to practice the game without having to push a button to load it up was great. Normally I just skip trying to practice because I didn't want to waste the time of loading it up. But since the practice is already loaded when you go in, why not try it out first? Overall, everything seemed quicker and better paced. You can change up the difficulty of the CPU player if you want more of a challenge. And it also gives you recommended players based on the person that you pick as your main, so they can match you up with characters with the same kind of dice. I think this game is worth a buy. There's plenty for you to do. Sure, some of the modes were not great, but they were fun to play once or twice. If you're looking for a fun party game, this could be perfect. In the end, the enjoyment that you're going to get out of this will come down to the amount of friends that you have. Wow, Dimitri's a scumbag. What? Why are you guys coming back to me? I have friends. They're called my books. Leave me alone. Just go buy the game. And maybe this book. Damn.